Would you like to be sworn in? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give in this case now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name and address and spell your last name, please.
Terry Pitzer, P-I-T-Z-E-R, 29485 East 2100 North Road, Colfax, Illinois.
She got it. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. I want to say thank you to the board for the many hours you spent listening to both sides of this. I know we all have better things to do, and I appreciate your continued attention, and I will try not to bore you. A lot of this seems to boil down to me to the difference between what is legally allowable and what is morally responsible. I'll be speaking to 2 points tonight. The first being specific to turbine number 80, and the second being a general statement. Number 1, in regard to turbine number 80 specifically, we have already heard extensive testimony about the unique environmental importance of this area surrounding the confluence of Hemline Creek and the Mackinac River, rating it among the best of the best in the state as testified by Dr. Angelo Caparella. We have also heard from Scott Schertz, owner of Schertz Aerial, who flies crop dusters in and out of the airport dozens of times a day, all day long, from spring through fall. He testified to the danger this turbine and the others in close proximity that he identified would pose to his pilots and the aircraft. In the 12 years since moving to our family farm, we have already witnessed one crash. On a clear day, with no man-made interferences, just natural atmospheric conditions, the plane was destroyed. But fortunately, the pilot was not hurt and no homes were impacted. I can't imagine the peril the pilots would be put in, having to navigate around spinning blades 500 feet high in their flight paths and the turbulent wind conditions they would create. I want to bring up a third factor that has not yet been brought up, and I'm guessing most of you, if not all of you, are unaware of. The land surrounding turbine number 80 along the Mackinac River was the site of the home of the Delaware Indian tribe, believed to be the only one in the state of Illinois. Researchers from the Illinois State Archaeological Survey spent several weeks excavating the land along the side of the road in preparation for proposed improvements to the gravel road along the 1 mile stretch we, along with 4 other families, live on. And yes, it is a gravel road. I have spoken to Dr. Thomas Lobel several times in the last week. Dr. Lobel has a PhD in anthropology from the University of Illinois, Chicago, and is the Senior Cultural Resources Coordinator for the Illinois State Archaeological Survey. After personally leading the research team at this site, it is his professional opinion that turbine number 80 is uncomfortably close to an area that has not been studied and is on the edge of a high probability zone. There is a known density of archaeological sites along the Mackinac River, he said, in this area, several of which are recommended and eligible for inclusion in the National Registry of Historic Places. He spoke with an engineer at Barnes & McDonnell, the company who will be doing the engineering studies for this project, and he was told no studies have yet been done. In light of all these extenuating circumstances, I am requesting that turbine number 80 be removed from the proposed plans. Number 2, neither my husband nor I are natives of McLean County. We both came to Bloomington in 1968 to attend college. Little did we expect that we would choose McLean County to be our home. But after we married and started our family, we soon realized that the quality of life that McLean County offered was just what we were looking for, and we decided to stay. In the early 2000s, our former home southeast of town was threatened by a request to rezone the farmland adjoining our property from agriculture to a zoning which allowed for absolutely anything to be built there. The county board was forward-thinking and in the end rejected the rezoning. Through another means, that beautiful farmland was eventually declared a TIF district, which cleared the way for the construction of storage units and a business. Despite expert testimony to the contrary, property values were dramatically impacted, and the business that was built there has now sat abandoned for more than a decade. I say this to illustrate the fact that a lot of these proposals promise much, but end up delivering much less and leaving eyesores behind. Unintended consequences. McLean County is a wonderful place to call home. What I used to see as acres and acres of just boring corn and soybeans, I now appreciate as the richest, most productive farmland in the world. We own 2 farms, but it's the people that make McLean County what it is. We choose to live here. We choose to raise our families here, to go to school here, to work here, to shop here. We have choices, but to many of us, it's a quality of life decision. According to a January 24, 2018 article in the Chicago Tribune, 33,700 people chose to leave the state of Illinois last year. That is the greatest numeric loss of any state. This wasn't just a one-year blip, but the 4th year in a row, and the decline continues to get bigger every year. Illinois property taxes are the highest in the nation, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, as quoted in the Chicago Tribune for 2016. And the state income tax is going up by 32%. Illinois homeowners are fed up, and many consider moving as people leave, they take their pocketbooks with them. Bloomington Normal used to be recession-proof, not anymore. We all know people who are moving or have already moved as a result of businesses closing, like Mitsubishi, or relocating with their employees, like State Farm, to more business-friendly states. For some, McLean County will always be home because of their work or their families. But for many, remaining here is a choice. It has become a quality of life choice. It certainly isn't the best economic choice for many of us to remain here when we can move to a state with little or no state income tax and much lower property taxes, not to mention the better weather. But we choose to stay because of the lifestyle and the people. All the money in the world will not help a school district if there are not enough children living in the district to keep it open. Personally, we are not against wind energy in the wide open spaces of the heartland. It's when it gets up close and personal that we have a problem, a big problem. Many, if not most of the homeowners most intimately affected by this proposed project stand to gain nothing, but will be impacted the most. The closest turbine to us is twice as far away from the person who has agreed to it than it is for the 5 homes who will be impacted by it and gain nothing. The $1,500 proposed, or 100-foot proposed distance from homes is less than 1/3 of a mile. Now in town, 3/10 of a mile might seem like a long way. In the country, 3/10 of a mile is often in our backyards. We can see an eagle soar or hear the hoot of owls for over a mile away. The people employed by Invenergy will go back to their high-rise offices in Chicago when all this is over and never have to look at, let alone live with, the results of their proposal. And I'm guessing most of you live in town and only will be seeing these turbines from a comfortable distance. But for me, it will be different. It will be personal. When I walk out to get my mail and look up, and I mean way up, I'll be looking at a structure about the height of a 50-story building, only about 800 to 1,000 feet away. For me and many of my neighbors, it's a quality of life issue, and we're looking to you to stand in the gap and protect our homes. Imagine for a minute if it was your mailbox or your home. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Staff? Applicant? Anyone in the audience have questions?
I have a question. How far is your
You
house?
gotta give your name.
Sorry, Phil Lutkehans, 105 East Irving Park Road, Itasca, Illinois. Luetkehans. How far is your home from the nearest wind turbine? Do you know?
I think it's supposed to be 1,500 feet from the foundation for our home, about 800 feet from the closest part of our property.
Okay, you said when you were at your mailbox, it was about 800 to 1,000 feet, correct? You have to say yes.
Yes.
Sorry. She can't take down shakes, nods, that, etc. Between your house and the mailbox, is that farmland?
It is, no, it is not. It is our yard.
Thank you. You know what, one last second, I'm sorry. What do you use your yard for?
Oh, we have, our family is, we now have 23 in our family. We have 11 grandchildren and 5 married children. We use it for our family, and the land's been in our family for, since 1897, and we hope to pass it on to our family in the future.
Yeah, and I'm just talking about the yard itself right now, not the farmland, okay?
Our grandchildren play out there.
That's what I want to know. Could you explain that?
Yes, but I babysit a lot and have grandchildren over a lot. They play, they ride their bikes. We play with our dogs out there. We have a fire pit where we have a lot of friends and family over and have cookouts.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? I don't think so. Push the button if you would. Thank you.
Eric Elder.
Would you like to be sworn in or affirmed?
Sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you should give in this case now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Absolutely, yes.
Could you state your name and address, spell your last name?
My name is Eric Elder, E-L-D-E-R. I live at 25615 East 3000 North Road, Chenoa, Illinois, and directly in the impacted area by this project. Eric, E-R-I-C. And I apologize, I have some laryngitis tonight.
Don't worry about it. We'll let her eat her feet. You can't move it a little closer.
Thanks. Really, thanks for asking for our comments and our thoughts. I really appreciate it. Like many in this room, I live directly in the impacted area, and this is very new information. Quite surprising to most of us. Others, it sounds like, have signed contracts and have had months, and even tonight I heard 2 years to consider this. Last night at the meeting was the first chance I had to talk to any of my neighbors about this with the holidays and being sick. This is the first time I've had a chance in the last 4 weeks since I got the letter. And that's the first time I'd ever heard of it. Of my 3 neighbors that I talked to, one was for, one was against, and one was neutral. Now, within another day, I'm supposed to decide whether I am for, against, or neutral on a project that even some of the expert witnesses I've heard here have, over the last 60 years, gone from testifying on behalf of the wind companies to testifying on behalf of those against the wind companies. And so this is a very complex issue, and part of my frustration, and perhaps some of these others in the room, is all of a sudden there's a decision needing to be made, and it's very hard. I do want to say, though, to my friends and neighbors in the room and the others in my community, I love them, I respect them, and regardless of how this vote goes, I will continue to love them and respect them. And this isn't about money, this is about neighbors and friends and community, and that's just the way that we roll here. And so I'm not here in any way to deprive anyone of an economic opportunity. I'm just here as a concerned citizen who has just gotten this news. It was sort of like getting a letter from the IRS, and you open it and all of a sudden you find out that something bad is happening around you that has some negative impacts, and personally no direct positive impacts to me. In fact, it's actually more like getting a letter or hearing from one of my daughters. I've got 3 daughters, and if one of them were to call me up and say, this guy has proposed to me, and we've set a date, and I know you've never met him before, but we're planning to get married by the end of the year. What do you think, Ted? We're talking about my very valuable daughters, and I'm going to just trust them to someone that I've only just met, and not even met, but I'm just getting to know, and they want to make a decision that's going to impact them for the rest of their life. And I'm 54 years old. This project will likely last for the rest of my life. So it's all very new information. You guys have been down this road before. You've seen other wind projects around. But when it comes to your doorstep, when it's in your backyard, and as I've heard from several people tonight, people don't mind wind farms. It's a great idea. I love it, just not in my backyard. And I think there's a real valid concern with that, and that addresses criteria number 1 of your 7 criteria. This does substantially affect my health and comfort and welfare. And so on that basis, just from me personally, it fails on that criteria. It also, I believe, fails criteria number 2 on your list, which is that it substantially impacts the enjoyment, and even though it says it does not substantially impact the property values, the fact that they put that word in there, apparently it does affect property values, or they would say it will not affect your property values. My frustration with this is that Invenergy has not come to me as a homeowner in this area, and has not offered me any kind of compensation for the negatives that are going up in my backyard. I read the proposal from, I believe it's EDP, which is coming to Chenoa, and maybe that's what you're hearing is February 6th, I'm not sure. That's a different one. But I just read their proposal on the other side of Chenoa, and they offer a good neighbor offer to people in the neighborhood who are going to be negatively impacted. I don't know what those amounts are, but I think that's a very kind and neighborly kind of thing to do when you're going to come and take something away from someone. I'm not expecting my neighbors to make any other kind of decision that's not good for them. I don't want to deprive them of making a good, sound decision. At the same time, I don't want to be deprived of my way of life, and I've lived at this home for my life. I grew up here. My dad lived there. My children live with me there. I moved away after college, happy to leave, happy to go live in big cities, and after years and years of that, I am so, so happy to have moved back 7 years ago to this home where I grew up. I believe there is a flaw in the Invenergy plan. I do believe this must be remedied before approval, and I think that would alleviate a lot of the concerns of people in this room. A lot of people are just frustrated by this. They're annoyed by this. It's highly annoying, using Dr. Schomer's words, to many of us who have this in our backyards, and I believe there should be some kind of compensation offered. I'm not saying that I would take it or not take it. I'm not even suggesting an amount, although an amount of $6,000 per year for the life of the project would at least make me a little happier. Would at least make me look at the wind turbines. I know I grew up on a farm. My dad had pigs. We had a pig farm, small farmer, pig farm. I've lived around pig farms. I live around them now. I've lived around all kinds of grain bins, all kinds of projects. I understand small farming, but when you come in and have a whole industry here, that's when it takes a change of course. And the phrase at home was, whenever we smell pigs or drive by cows or any other kind of thing that might be a little unpleasant, what did we say? Smells like money. And it put a smile on your face. And I think that's putting a smile on a lot of people's faces, communities, schools, farmers, landowners. Unfortunately, it's not putting a smile on my face. And I think that's a flaw in the plan when other energy companies offer such a thing. Living in the impacted zone myself, when I read these criteria, the first 2, let me just repeat those. I believe it does not meet it, at least for me personally. It might for others, and for others who are being compensated and compensated well. Obviously, they took the contracts because they're being compensated well. They were able to balance this out. I'm not. It is detrimental to my health, my comfort, my welfare. In short, it's detrimental to my quality of life, with no benefit to me to offset that detriment. The second criteria being this, that it will be injurious to my enjoyment of the other property in the immediate area and will affect my property values. And of course, the definition of substantial impact on your property values is very debatable. For me, I live in my home 24/7, nearly 365 days a year. I'm an author, and I'm a composer. I write piano music, I write books, and my home is my getaway. My home is my respite. The reason I love coming back to here is to enjoy the peace, the quiet, the solitude. I take daily walks down my property, summer and winter. I take my family down the country roads. We take starry night walks. I don't mean to get sentimental, But when you've lived in the city for years and years and years, this is a huge plus to my life, at this stage of my life especially, and for my children. This is not just delightful to me personally, but it also helps clear my mind, helps me to think deeply, and to write the books and the music that I write, which are my livelihood most creatively. I've never lived by a wind turbine before. I am concerned what I read about the visual flicker that could cause on my sunset walks. I am concerned about the audible noise that could cause whenever the wind turbines are running, day or night, because I live there, as I say, 24/7. I simply don't know how the turbines might affect me. The potential is negative, though, with no potential positive. I've chosen to live there because of the peace and quiet, the views of the daytime sky and the stars at night. I've also chosen to live there because this is the home and the community where I grew up, where my mom and dad lived and died, where my kids live with me, and not to be overly emotional, but this is the home where I held the hand of my wife as she passed from this life to the next 5 years ago. I don't want to look for another place to live. This is my home. I love it. I love the people here. And if something happens with these turbines where it significantly impacts my life and my way of life, that will be the choice that I'll have to face, just like others have had to face. Not to be mysterious, I just want to protect this picture. I brought a picture with me of my farmstead. This was taken 3 years ago, and taken by an aerial photographer. I'll be glad to walk around and show it to you. This is my farm. And one of my kids asked, why did you buy that from the aerial photographer? You know, he's just trying to scam, he's just making a deal or what, you know, he just... And I said, to me, this is so worth it. This is why I moved back here. I look at this is my house that I've lived on from childhood until now. And all this property back here is free and clear and open. And I told my daughter who asked me why I bought this, I said, because it is not always going to be free and open and clear like this. And I want to be able to remember it like this. Because I love it like this. And this is where I want to live. I had little idea that 3 years later, everything you see here will be covered with turbines.